Genesis, which means what? What does Genesis mean? To begin. In other words, you put Pauline and Genesis together, and it means to begin what? To begin again. Most lexicons or dictionaries that I checked out of the experts in the biblical languages say that this means to regenerate, or it means rebirth. Now let me ask you, where was Jesus regenerated? What does regenerate mean? It means to give what? It means to give life what? What does re mean? Generate is to give life, but regenerate is to what? To give it again. Let me ask you, when was Jesus regenerated? When is it that he began again after his death? It was when Jesus was resurrected from the dead. Now, not only do you have here in this verse the washing, which refers to the laver, water, of regeneration, the word regeneration meaning beginning again or rebirth from the grave, but also you have renewing of the Holy Spirit. Allow me to tell you something about that word renewing. That word renewing is the Greek word koinotes. And let's read another verse in the New Testament that uses that word renewing to see what it refers to. It's actually used in only two other verses in the New Testament. It's used in Romans 6 and verse 4 and Romans 7 and verse 6. We're only going to read Romans chapter 6 and verse 4. Notice what this word renewing refers to. It says, therefore we were buried with him through baptism into what? Death. That just as Christ was raised, so what is the theme here? It's death and what? Resurrection. Therefore we were buried with him through baptism into death, that just as Christ was raised from the dead by the glory of the Father, even so we also should walk in what? In newness of life. What happens in baptism? Do we die with Christ in baptism? Are we buried with Christ in baptism? Do we resurrect to newness of life in baptism? Absolutely. So what does this word here mean? Newness in Titus chapter 3 and verse 5, the renewing of the Holy Spirit. It's referring to what? It's referring to the resurrection. Are you understanding what I'm saying? So after Jesus dies, because his body is a corpse, it has to be what? It has to be cleansed. And so it's cleansed where? When Jesus resurrects with a glorified body. He resurrects at the laver. It's the renewing of his life. It's the regeneration of his life. In other words, the laver represents the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So Jesus basically lived in the camp with us. He lived his perfect life there as a perfect priest and a perfect lamb. Then he came to the altar of sacrifice and he offered himself. He is the officiating priest in his own sacrifice. At the laver, he's regenerated, or his life is renewed, as we read in Romans chapter 6 and verse 4. In other words, he resurrects from the dead with his glorified, immortal, and incorruptible body. Now here's the very important question that will set the stage for our next study together. Where would you expect Jesus to go next? Do you know what most Christians believe? They say, Jesus jumped from the court to the most holy place. My question is there a holy place between the court and the most holy? Of course. Do you think Jesus jumped over the holy place into the most holy place directly? Absolutely not. Did Jesus have a function to fulfill in the holy place of the sanctuary? He most certainly did. He had a role to fulfill where the 7-branch candlestick is. He had a role to fulfill where the table of showbread is. He had a role to fulfill where the altar of incense is. All three of those pieces of furniture represent something very important concerning the relationship between Christ and His people. So the next step that we find Jesus taking in His sanctuary walk is going into where? Going into the holy place of the sanctuary. And the question is, what did He go into the holy place for? You know, you ask a Christian today, what has Jesus been doing the last 2,000 years? They say, good question. For most Christians, everything was finished when Jesus died on the cross. That's it. That's not it. Because Jesus lived in the camp, He died in the court, He resurrected at the laver, He goes into the holy place, and then He goes into the most holy place. Let me ask you, is there a function of Jesus after His work in the court on planet Earth? Most certainly. And we're going to study about His work in the holy place tomorrow and also on Friday night. We're going to see that in the holy place is where we can claim the benefits of what Jesus did while He was on earth. So don't miss tomorrow night.